Well, hello everyone. This is Mark Skidmore. I'm the director of the NCRCRD, first of a series of webinars on placemaking. There are a number of universities in the North Central region who have their own flavor of placemaking, and so we thought it would be useful to share our knowledge via the webinar framework. And so today we have the first of the series. In the email that we sent out, you can see that we have several scheduled coming up, one in December 1st, another on January 19th, and then on February 9th. So we hope that this webinar and the others will be very fruitful, and we'll have some great learning and discussion as a part of it. With that introduction, I will now turn and introduce Kara Salazar, who joined Purdue University Department of Forestry and Natural Resources and Illinois-Indiana Sea Grant as a Sustainable Communities Extension Specialist in 2012. She serves as a link between Indiana communities and scientists conducting research on sustainability. She develops programs and tools to transfer new technologies and discoveries to communities in support of informed land use and policy decisions. Working with multidisciplinary teams throughout Purdue University Extension and the Sea Grant College Network, Kara develops products, programs, and resources to improve sustainability strategies in communities. Her focus areas include placemaking and enhancing public spaces, lawn and landscape conservation practices, and natural resource management. So thank you, Kara, for taking time and pulling this presentation together, and we're really looking forward to hearing from you. And you can take over from here.
Great, thank you so much. I'm very happy to be speaking with you all today to talk about our Enhancing the Value of Public Spaces program. And I'll also recognize my co-lead and collaborator, Dr. Michael Wilcox. He was unable to attend today. He's doing community development extension work in Columbia this week, but he sends his regards. So Michael and I began working on this program shortly after we both arrived at Purdue in 2012. We began hearing from many of our state educator colleagues and county offices, as well as stakeholder groups, with a call out for interest in resources and technical assistance related to public spaces planning in a variety of contexts. We're also hearing a lot about, of course, quality of place and quality of life initiatives. So we felt this was a really great time and space to convene a team to start talking through and thinking through what a program may look like. We were funded through an internal grant at Purdue, an issue-based action team, to launch this Enhancing the Value of Public Spaces program. We worked with our team, which grew into about a 40-member collaborative effort at the end of it all, and we continue to make this a very collaborative program. We wrote the curriculum, and in 2012 to 2013, we piloted it throughout the state in 2014. We then underwent peer review and edits and published later that year, and we've been fully implementing in 2015 and 2016. So today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the overview of the program. I'm going to provide some community project examples of how we've been implementing this throughout the state of Indiana. A little bit of lessons learned, both in our development and the implementation, as well as looking forward, what we have planned for the future with enhancing the value of public spaces. The program has been designed to focus on public spaces action planning, and we do that through providing education, resources, and a framework to conduct a strategic planning effort. We also see this very much as providing venues and working groups for collaboration and stakeholder input. In a lot of the communities where we're working, this represents an effort to broaden the feedback for public spaces in the community that may or may not usually occur in some of the places that we're working in. The program is typically about a 6-month process from start to finish, and the amount of engagement with community groups is typically between 15 to 25 hours, although that depends, again, on how quickly we're moving through or how much work each group is wanting to put into the planning process. Our program consists of a curriculum. Through our program development effort, we wrote about a 100-page curriculum that provides case studies, resources, and tools to complete an action planning process. If you can see in the bottom right corner, a picture of the curriculum as well as a facilitation guide. We've recently launched a facilitation effort to do a Train the Trainer program, and I'll talk a little bit about that as well. We utilized the curriculum that we wrote, the tools and resources, to launch a series of meetings and working group efforts to finish a final action plan. We kicked that off with a workshop for the public phase, and the working group meetings then continue throughout this phase to finish up with the action plan. The final action plan and process can be used in a variety of ways. The ways that we have been implementing it so far are listed here. We wrote the curriculum and created the program, however, around supporting Parks and Recreation master plan updates. But we found that it's been very flexible and we've been able to implement it in a variety of contexts, including comprehensive plan updates, downtown revitalization projects, and preparation for a specific program or project as well. And I'll provide examples of each of these when I show you some of the community projects that we've been working on. The target audience that we tailor this for when we're starting to work with communities, we list our target audience as public spaces decision makers, including parks departments, planning offices, public officials, and staff. And that is intentionally a little broad because it will depend on the type of public spaces project that we're working on. But key to all of this is making sure that we have decision makers in the room and part of the process so that when we're going through the action plan that we have the ability to work with the community on implementation. Our county educators are also very keen to this project and to this process. We work very collaboratively throughout our county system. Many times these projects are being spearheaded by the information sharing from our county offices. So as we go through some of the examples, you'll see the roles that some of our county educators have played as we work together. As I mentioned earlier, too, this is a very collaborative effort, and we always have at least 3 facilitators working on behalf of the Enhancing the Value of Public Spaces team to move the community through this program progression that I'm showing you now. There are 3 parts to this with a corresponding processes to guide the community through the different parts of the action plan. We start with the facilitation aspects with diverse stakeholder groups, and this includes our first meeting sessions with the community. So we conduct scoping sessions with local leads. We typically like to have at least 3 people who are identified as the local leadership who will be shepherding this project and this process from start to finish. And they're typically the ones who either are responsible for finishing up the final action plan or they're working with a consulting group or other entities that will be responsible for it. These scoping sessions are very much get to know you meetings. We talk about our program. We hear from the community. We want to know the types of plans they have in place and the type of work that they're interested in so we can help tailor the project further. We also work with them to think through the individuals and stakeholders to be represented in the first workshop. We begin planning for that workshop during meetings as well. The first public phase of enhancing the value of public spaces then is the workshop. We have about a 5-hour experience, and this is a brainstorming and visioning workshop to start thinking through community assets and opportunities for the public space that they've identified to work on. We typically have about 30 to 50 attendees, and we use the community capitals framework to make sure that there's a broad spectrum of community. And I'll show a graphic of community capitals in a moment to get people up to speed on how we utilize that as well. Once we conclude with the 5-hour workshop, within a month, we convene a strategies working group meeting. And this moves then into our technical assistance phase of the program, where we start transitioning a little bit more from facilitation to coaching. And we help communities think through the strategies that they'd like to implement tied to the visioning workshop that they concluded. In these strategy session working group meetings, we typically have about 10 to 20 attendees, and those are individuals that already had attended the workshop many times. It's about a 3-hour session, and it is also a facilitated process. We then conclude our program with helping the community put their action plan together and still serving in a coaching role. And these are typically working group meetings. They're about 3 hours each. We at least like to have the local leads who are finalizing the plan. Many times these can be the attendees that came to the strategy sessions too, where we're going through timelines, Gantt charts, and budgeting to think through how they're going to implement their final plan. And we work with them then until they get to a final action plan document. As I mentioned, we utilize the community capitals framework as the overarching underpinning of our program. We utilize the community capitals for public spaces because it very well represents the broad spectrum of what should be represented when you're thinking through public spaces action planning. And this is building from the work, as you see listed on the slide here, from Emery, Fay, Flora, and Flora. Michael and I had both used community capitals in a variety of contexts, but when we started thinking through our public spaces program, we found that it has fit so very well, again, with bringing in diverse stakeholder groups and then thinking through the assets and opportunities within each of the different aspects of the capitals. For our facilitation process and action planning, we utilize the appreciative inquiry process. And how we utilize this is from beginning to end and thinking through the definition of what the community is going to work on through the scoping session meetings. In our workshops, we're going through the asset-based planning and opportunities through the dreaming aspect. We then go into our strategy session where we're thinking through the design, and as we're coaching through the rest of the process, we're thinking through the delivery and how the community is going to be reflecting on their successes and celebrating their achievements. This is what our program looks like in action. We set up the community capitals asset mapping tables in a room, and we use a round robin or a modified world cafe type facilitation process for the stakeholder groups to rotate through and to provide assets that they find or that they see within the public space that we're planning around. We then post all of those on this big 10-foot sticky wall that you see here and leave that up for the duration of the workshop. We switch the room then to think through opportunities using the community capital stations again, and then leveraging off of these assets, they're thinking through the opportunities of how they would like to envision their public space. At the end of the workshop, they're voting on their opportunities, and this helps set them up for the strategy session and the working group meeting. And this is what we use again in the workshop that's about 30 to 50 people. I'll go through a series of examples of how we've implemented enhancing the value of public spaces and the types of plans that we've been supporting throughout the state. In Kokomo, Indiana, we began our process here with conducting an enhancing the value of public spaces process to think through connectivity of public spaces and linking their physical, social, and economic political assets. The community had green infrastructure and was interested in making sure that they were connecting to some additional high-quality public spaces and getting neighborhood and community input to do so. We went through the process with a workshop and the working group meetings. And the outcome after working with them for almost a year was a request that we help them complete their comprehensive plan update for the city. We told them that we'd be happy to help, but that we wouldn't necessarily be in the position to take the lead on that. So we utilized our the data, the resources, and the information that we had compiled, and were prepared to finish an action plan with the community for public spaces and transition that into a comprehensive plan update. We worked very closely with the Parks and Recreation Department. The Nature Conservancy and the Economic Development Alliance were the initial leads. As we transitioned into a comprehensive plan update, this committee was transitioned into the steering committee, and a consultant was brought in too then to finish up the process. We had a lot of diverse participants throughout the engagement as well, and the comprehensive plan update is almost complete. So we've been working with them for a little over a year now. We had the opportunity recently too to work in our own backyard, which we don't always get that opportunity to do so. The West Lafayette Parks and Recreation Department contacted us after hearing about our program through our county extension office, and they invited us to think through how we could work with them and provide support for their public engagement and participation and feedback to inform their Parks and Recreation 5-year master plan update. They have 13 parks, 27 miles of trails, a community center, and a public pool. The local leads for this effort, in addition to the Parks and Recreation Department, included our local extension educators, and then eventually we brought in a consultant too. But we were working ahead of the consultant RFP before they started finishing up their aspect of the comprehensive plan update. So we were brought in to start the public engagement process, and we convened 2 community visioning workshops to tailor the timing of day for different types of stakeholder groups. We then crafted, implemented, and analyzed a citywide feedback survey. We received just under 900 responses for the survey. We completed then a final report that was quite long, but then we had an executive summary, all of which was posted onto Parks and Rec's website for the master plan update. We then presented the results of the public engagement in community forums, as well as for park boards and other public officials. The RFP was sent out as we were getting ready to start to work on the public input survey, and so the consultant was able to be identified and was able to work with us on identifying other types of questions and information and feedback to meld with the final components they were interested in learning more about too for the plan. So it was a very successful collaboration, and their comprehensive plan, or their master plan update, is almost complete. We worked in Frankfort, Indiana, to help them with a 5-year action plan for their quality of place initiative, focusing on their downtown redevelopment. The mayor's office spearheaded this initiative. They have a very dynamic and engaging mayor, one of the youngest that we've had in the state. And the county extension director also played a very strong role in this effort as well. Other interesting stakeholder groups that were participating in this effort included the Mayor's Youth Council from the area high school. They attended all of their sessions and provided a lot of input into the process. We convened our visioning workshop and 3 community working groups. We then helped them finish up their action plan, which was used to secure funding from Indiana's Office of Community and Rural Affairs for feasibility studies. And this effort also led to their quality of place initiative to formalize as a committee for downtown redevelopment. The next few slides and programs that I'm going to highlight are related to the Hometown Collaboration Initiative. This is an effort through Indiana's Office of Community and Rural Affairs, and Purdue University and Ball State are also primary collaborators. Communities sign on to participate in this program through an application process, and through this progression of meetings and activities and education sessions that the community goes through, they will then They will then identify a building block and a final project where there is cost share funding that's available for the communities to implement. The Enhancing the Value of Public Spaces program had the opportunity to be a part of this large effort. We were part of the placemaking building block, and we worked with 3 communities last year to finalize the Hometown Collaboration Initiative projects in each of these communities. In Perry County in southern Indiana, they were interested in working on a county-wide quality of place initiative. And this was a little bit of a unique situation in which we were working on a virtual space. There was an interest to create a website with several stakeholder groups to help emphasize the quality of place initiatives that they have in their county. And the result was a new collaboration between the Visitors Bureau, the Chamber, and the County Development Corporation. We coached the team then to finish their site plan and the RFP for the web consultants, and they were able to successfully launch this too, which was a new initiative for them. In Corydon, Indiana, we worked with a very diverse and energetic team to help them finish up an action plan process for their city's first park. Our state is celebrating the bicentennial this year, and Corydon was the site of our first state capitol, so they felt it was appropriate to name the park Bicentennial Park. Through several months of working with them and a lot of partnerships and leveraging of funding, they were able to successfully launch a larger fundraising initiative, which is currently underway, and they're very close to meeting their final goals for implementing this new park. And the final example is in Lebanon, Indiana, which is also a Hometown Collaboration Initiative project. We were working with the Main Street organization and this HCI group to merge to think about working with their downtown redevelopment, their successful events, and local merchants. So they have a history of several successful events, and they were interested in leveraging that to provide additional traffic into their downtown. And what they're thinking about now, they're almost finished with their effort, and they're thinking about a public arts project to implement. I'll share a few lessons learned as we've implemented this program for a couple of years now. We found that the scoping meetings are incredibly important to get started, both to understand the local political landscape, but also current projects, and to make sure that you're connecting different plans and different initiatives as you're thinking through this new public spaces effort. We've also found that this process greatly supports collaboration and minimizes conflict, in particular by using this community capitals framework and the appreciative inquiry process. There is a lot of opportunity for diverse engagement and a lot of opportunity for several voices to be heard, so that one particular group is not necessarily dominating. We felt like we've honed our workshops and our working group meetings into some best practices for community meetings, particularly to support public engagement in placemaking and public spaces planning too. We've also found that by clearly delineating the roles of the consultant, the extension team, and the community leads, that we've been able to be very successful in going through this multi-phase process and coming out with an action plan that can be implemented within each of the communities that we've worked with. We're also finding that coaching is very important to go through this process, both from the local leads providing support and coaching to the working groups and communication, as well as for us to help the groups thinking through their process and getting them to that next stage so that they can be successful in finishing up. One final thing that we're also thinking about is determining our appropriate program price point. In extension, we're not necessarily thinking through fee for service many times, but we are finding that we're being asked to do more and more with this program, so we're thinking of some appropriate price points with the associated deliverables. And then finally, for looking forward, due to the success and with this program, we're partnering with our Health and Human Sciences and Nutrition Education program for a new collaborative effort. We're creating additional modules for health, wellness, and envisioning the built environment. We're using the same framework and many of the same components of our original Enhancing the Value of Public Spaces program, but we'll be focusing more on active living and the built environment with this next iteration. So we're currently writing those modules now, and we'll be piloting and implementing within the next year. And these are photos from our recent training that we had for the Train the Trainer effort, which also is incorporating our community wellness coordinators, who will be our primary partners in delivering this new health, wellness, and envisioning the built environment program, which we're very excited about. I greatly appreciate spending time with you today to talk to you about the program. My email and Michael's emails are listed here. Our program website is also listed here on the front page of our curriculum. The Community Development Program had a relaunch, redesign of a new website. So there is a beautiful new website that's behind that URL now too. So I'd be happy to take questions.
Okay, thank you, Kara. I guess we can, if you have some questions, what you can do is type them into the chat session, and then we can try and cover them. We have a few minutes here. And then while we're thinking about those questions and having a discussion, I'm going to put the poll up here, which you can fill out. That was very helpful for us as well, so thank you for that. Looks like Bruce is typing something. Uh-oh. Can you all see the poll?
So Bruce asked the question, you mentioned price points. Where are you in that process? This is something that we are continuing to investigate, and so I would really be interested if others have some good resources for us too. We're thinking through fees for our basic travel expenses and then tiering it based on what communities would be interested in. So if they wanted a more intensive survey effort, then we would be charging more for that, and then also based on the amount of curriculum materials and things they would want. So what we're looking at right now are other program areas to see some best practices, and then of course talking through our administrative and budget offices to see the best way to do that. It's a little bit different because we would be working on more of a contract basis with a community or a group versus a fee per participant. So we're still investigating, and I would be happy to hear best practices if people have those to share.
We're just waiting for Dave's comment here. It's coming up.
Yes. Great, and Dave has said that he says they're not sure if we have a best practice per se, but we do have some experiences in fee for service. Well, that's great, Dave, and I would be happy to hear about those experiences. I'll send you an email as a follow-up if that's okay. And Bruce, as from Minnesota, in our system, we might be 2,500 to 7,000 per community. Great, thank you for that. One of the things that we are sensitive to and think through as well is we're not in a competitive nature with consultants. We're collaborating and wanting to make sure that we're clearly delineating what our services provide. So we're wanting to make sure and to be sensitive to those price points in that way too.
How often, Kara, do you find yourself in a position where consultants are also working at the same time with you, either jointly with you or maybe separately? How does that work out?
It's something that we're finding that's occurring more and more. It has been overarching a very positive collaborative experience because we're bringing the framework from facilitation, public engagement with our community development backgrounds that is frankly pretty expensive for a community to be able to utilize from this consultant standpoint. And many times they're going to be doing what they need to do to get their feedback, but it may not be as in-depth as what we can offer. So it really has been seen as a win-win from the consultants, from the communities, that we're able to provide some value added to the process. We always make sure, though, that we are communicating that so we know where they are in their process and how our work will be utilized for the endpoint, too.
Thank you. Do you see Crystal's comment?
Oh, thank you. Crystal, do you have a link for the Community Capital Framework? We do, and there are a series of white papers that we've used in both our Enhancing the Value of Public Spaces program